Hey guys, Dustin Stearns here with LifeBridge Church.
And my name's Kofi.
Hey, great to be with you celebrating Black History Month. We want to highlight some heroes from the past that can bring inspiration for us today. Kofi, tell me a little bit, who is a hero from the past who really inspires you and how you connect with that?
Great question, Dustin, I must say. To be honest, at this point in my life, as a young physician, one person I really look up to is Mr. Vivien Thomas. Not a physician himself, but could be considered one of the greatest surgeons of all time. So he was. He really was a janitor turned surgical technician with just a high school education.
Wow.
Because of the Great Depression, he had to drop out of school. But certainly was talented, gifted, and smart enough to have been a physician. So, as a surgical tech, he worked alongside one of the best heart surgeons of all time, Dr. Blaylock from Johns Hopkins. But one thing that people did not know until much later is that he was actually the brains behind the operation. Which operation, you might add? This would be the operation correcting to the tetralogy of Fallot, blue baby syndrome.
Wow. Okay, wait. You just said a lot of big words.
My bad words. I'm sorry.
Okay. Help me understand. What is this? Blue baby?
Blue baby syndrome. It's this condition in congenital heart, so kids, even when they're still in the uterus, where their heart chambers are not really connected appropriately, and they have a couple other holes in their heart that just causes the blood to not get oxygen. When blood isn't oxygenated and it gets around the body, it causes you to look kind of bluish or darker than normal tint. These kids were born, clearly they knew that something was wrong with their heart based on their studies, and so one cardiologist approached Dr. Blaylock and said, hey, what if we can invent a procedure whereas you connect the tubing in the heart? Dr. Blaylock knew, hey, I can't do this, but Mr. Vivien Thomas sure can.
Wow.
Because he's pretty much been teaching me all my skills for the recent history. So Mr. Vivien Thomas took it upon himself to conduct the studies for years on hundreds of canines, hundreds of dogs, until he perfected this procedure, the technique, the physiology behind it, and its actual performance. He then educated Dr. Blaylock on how to do it. He literally was coaching Dr. Blaylock in the operating room on how to do this. As a person who's literally coached through surgery for a living, I can tell you got to know a lot more than the guy doing it if you're going to coach somebody through it. But I think the take-home point regarding Mr. Thomas is the fact that he really did not gain much recognition throughout the time he was doing this.
Wow.
He got to the point where he actually considered leaving the facility because Dr. Blaylock was not going to give him the credit he deserved, understandably. But by raising his salary, Mr. Thomas decided to stay at the institution, furthering his mission, and realizing that he wasn't ever going to get the true appreciation that he deserved.
Wow.
So I think that's pretty Christ-like, if you ask me. It's a person who really, at much personal cost to himself, stuck to his mission. Through that mission, other surgical procedures were founded, hundreds to thousands of more children were saved. You can owe that almost entirely to Mr. Vivien Thomas.
Wow. So let me get this straight. We have an African-American man, starts out as a janitor, has a giftedness and an aptitude for learning, and really develops some procedures that save hundreds to thousands of lives. And the entire time, because of his skin color, he's just a guy way off in the back room that nobody cares about. And never in any of the photos, never in any of the awards, never in any of the celebrations, but yet really countless lives saved as a result of him sticking to his mission.
You make exactly. I think because of the way he looked, also because of his status in society, right? Also, janitor, one would have thought that he, was not much of a contributor to this world, but he knew his worth. He kind of knew what was in his mind. He knew what he could do, and he believed in himself. He had a God behind him. And with all that, he was able to really come up with some incredible things, despite what other people would have not expected him to be able to do.
Wow, that's incredible. Somebody who knew his mission and really helped people, despite 100%. Never getting compensated, recognized, thanked, anything for it.
Interesting.
That's incredible.
How about you, Dustin?
Yeah, I think someone who inspires me, a Black hero that inspires me is Harriet Tubman. And you've probably heard of Harriet Tubman before. In fact, I remember I have a history minor, history degree in college, and I remember pretty much every American history class that I took, they mentioned Harriet Tubman and that she was involved in the Underground Railroad. And that's it.
That's about it. Yep.
That's it. So it wasn't until more recently when I did more digging on my own that I start unpacking her life story and realize, whoa, there's so much to this that, of course, you don't have time in history class to cover everything, but that's why we're taking the time now with Black History Month to say, hey, here's someone that we can really, that we can be inspired by and live out some of the same qualities that she stood for. Something that really strikes me, I mean, we could go into so many things, but Harriet Tubman, of course, grew up as a slave, and as a result had no rights, a lot of abuse, a lot of hurt. Her older siblings, her older sisters, were sold into slavery down into the South. I mean, the fracture of the family. She was mistreated, and just so much pain inflicted on her. Her master would hire her out to other slave owners, hire out her labor. They would mistreat her so badly that she would get so sick and weak that she couldn't even work anymore, and so they would return her back to her master. And then her family there would kind of nurture her back to health until she would get hired out again. And so she just really endured a really, really rough life. So much pain from the family side, from the physical side, from no rights. And then heartbreakingly, her mother it was in the will of her original master, who she was inherited, when she turned 45, she was to become free. And all of her kids, which included Harriet Tubman, who was originally known as Minty, she was to be made free when she was 45 as well. So as part of this promise that was made in this will, well, when Harriet's mother turned 45, her master said, I don't care. I don't care. You're not going free. Which is totally illegal. It's totally unfair. It's totally unjust. And nobody cared, because Harriet's mother, as a slave, had no representation, no one there to advocate for her, and so life continued to go on in slavery, and it's just heartbreaking. All this pain that was endured. Harriet was also, received an almost fatal injury to the head. Her skull was fractured, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, getting hit in the head by someone throwing an iron at someone else. So what inspires me about her is that she had so much against her, so much pain. And so what did she do with this? So much mistreatment, so much injustice. What did she do with it? Well, it came to the point, in her 20s where she realized she was going to bolt for her freedom. And so she takes off and runs away. One other piece of the story is she ends up marrying actually a freedman. And she wants to go for freedom with him, and he didn't want to go at that time. Anyway, she gets her freedom, and she makes it all the way. It beats all the odds and makes it to freedom. And she has a new life. And she could have built a new life for herself and said, you know what? I had all that pain in the past. That's no longer what I need to worry about. I just need to build my future. But then she does the unthinkable. She steps right back into that environment by going back to free the people that were in the same position she had been. Risking everything, risking her freedom, risking her life, risking all these things. And so instead of using her pain that she experienced in her past to hold her back or to justify living for herself or to have bitterness, she uses it as a way to stand up for what's right and to combat evil and to save as many people as she can. And so she goes back and worked incredible, you can read about her, goes back on 19 different trips back to go free slaves from where she had been. Free family members. She even tried to free her husband, who she finds out had already moved on and married another woman and had kids and stuff and built a life there. I mean, so tragic. So many things that were very sad to see, yet she just continued with her mission. And like I said, freed over 300 slaves, and through that experience. And I see Jesus in that example as someone who she had the opportunity to take care of just herself, but instead she gives up personal safety and security to go save those who desperately need it. And I think with and really jeopardizing, she could have died at any point.
Absolutely.
And even yeah, and yet that was what Jesus did, right? Jesus gave up all security. He gave up he gave up all, entitlement to comfort or self-preservation or status, and came down to literally set the captives free. And that inspires me. And Harriet, even after she became too high profile to continue freeing slaves, she used her voice to advocate for rights for slaves and to free them in so many different ways. And even becoming the first woman to lead an American military venture.
Yeah.
And that ended up freeing over 700 slaves. And so really, this is somebody that I just see as someone who's self-sacrificing in order to save as many people as possible. And why I connect so personally with that is that I see my life and my role as a follower of Jesus is about saving people from spiritual slavery and loving people like God does and saving people from spiritual slavery. And even if there's all these things against us, even if there's hostility in the culture, even if there's places or ways that it is not accepted to lift up Jesus, we can think about people like Harriet Tubman and others, people like Jesus who sacrifice self in order to save as many people as possible. And that's the kind of person I want to be. That's the kind of person I want to be, is somebody who loves like Jesus and who is willing to sacrifice to save as many people as possible.
Well said, Chris.
So really, thanks so much for tuning in. There is so much we can celebrate about heroes from our past and learn from. And so just thanks for celebrating Black History Month with us. And we just hope that that you can be inspired by Vivien Thomas,
Absolutely.
by Harriet Tubman, and by so many others. And that we can take the courage from their stories and live it out in our lives today. And so if you've been blessed by this or encouraged by this, go ahead and like, comment, let us know what your thoughts, who's somebody that's inspired you, and go ahead and share it. I think others could be inspired by these examples. And so thank you so much for joining us, and we just want to continue to move forward together in this journey to bridge people to better life with Jesus now and forever. Thanks, guys.